In May 2026, the Computex Taipei exhibition hall was at capacity, but the industry was unprepared for the shift Nvidia was about to announce. CEO Jensen Huang revealed the RTX Spark, a single chiplet that combines a high-performance CPU, a GPU, and a neural processing unit into a single unified piece of silicon. The market response was immediate. Within hours of the announcement, Intel stock dropped 12%, and AMD fell 9% in after-hours trading. This pivot toward unified silicon left competitors in a difficult position, holding on to the traditional model of separate processors while the market's attention shifted elsewhere. The RTX Spark signals a change in Nvidia's strategy, moving away from modular components toward fully integrated systems. It challenges the standard PC building model that has governed the industry for decades. For years, the primary constraint in computing hasn't been the speed of individual chips, but the physical distance data has to travel between them. Traditionally, the CPU and GPU are separate blocks, communicating across a PCIe connection, creating latency known as the PCIe bottleneck. The RTX Spark solves this by merging them into one. Sharing a unified memory pool means data no longer waits to cross the motherboard. But removing that physical gap requires moving away from the open, mix-and-match hardware ecosystem we're used to. This creates a difficult choice. Is the speed gained by eliminating data latency worth the cost of moving into a closed, non-modular architecture? On the surface, the consumer RTX Spark appears competitively priced, with a base MSRP of $1,299. That number is significantly lower than the launch prices of previous flagship cards, like the RTX 4090, which often sold for over $2,000. However, the chip itself is only one part of the cost. Because of its unified design, it requires a PCIe 5.0 or 6.0 motherboard, making most older systems incompatible. You also have to account for the power and heat. This chip needs an 850 to 1000 watt power supply and a case designed for high-volume airflow just to maintain stable performance. This chart shows how the true cost of ownership stacks up. While the chip is $1,299, adding the required motherboard, power supply, and case pushes the total investment past the $2,000 mark. If you're upgrading an older PC, the RTX Spark isn't a single component swap. It's a mandatory rebuild of the entire system. For those who do rebuild, the performance is high. The unified architecture can run 70 billion parameter AI models locally at 60 tokens per second. This efficiency is built on tight integration with Nvidia's own software frameworks, specifically CUDA 13.0 and TensorRT. This integration creates a specific hardware dependency. Currently, 95% of AI models are optimized to run exclusively on Nvidia software, which limits your ability to switch to other platforms. By committing to the Spark, you effectively move away from open standards, losing the ability to use competitors like Intel's One API or AMD's RockCM. Choosing this hardware means accepting that your future upgrades and software compatibility will be determined entirely by a single vendor. For enterprise users, the financial scale changes from thousands of dollars to millions, shifting the focus from personal builds to data center infrastructure. At this level, managers are looking at the RTX Spark Enterprise node, which carries a per-unit price of $8,999. These units draw 1,200 watts each and require mandatory liquid cooling, which often necessitates a complete redesign of the server rack cooling system. While the upfront capital expense is high, it is a response to the rising costs of cloud AI APIs, where companies pay recurring fees for every token processed. This graph compares those costs. The flat line is the high upfront cost of Spark hardware, while the rising line tracks the recurring cloud fees. They intersect at the 12-month mark, where owning the hardware begins to save money. For these managers, the high power and infrastructure requirements are a trade-off for data privacy and a 60% reduction in long-term cloud expenses. To decide if this hardware makes sense, we can map out 3 distinct scenarios based on your workflow. First, if you're a CTO or lead a dev team with high cloud inference costs, the move to a Spark node is supported by the numbers. The savings on API fees and the gain in data security justify the investment in liquid cooling and new power infrastructure. Second, for AI researchers and 3D artists working with 4K path tracing, the consumer Spark offers clear performance gains. Just know you are essentially paying for a brand new computer, as almost none of your old core components will be compatible. Finally, if you are a 1440p gamer or creator with a system under 3 years old, the recommendation is to wait. The performance gap is impressive, but it does not yet justify the $2,000 entry fee for standard gaming or light creative tasks. The RTX Spark is a significant engineering achievement. It effectively addresses the PCIe bottleneck that has limited data transfer speeds for years. This efficiency removes the modular upgrade path that has been a staple of home computing. You can no longer simply swap a single card to keep your system current. Your decision to upgrade should be based on your actual infrastructure budget and need for unified memory, rather than the initial excitement surrounding the announcement.